Good morning. It is Thursday, October the 8th. This is Sunrise to Sunset with Pastor Gene. Today we're going to be looking at Matthew 22 verses 34 to 40. And these verses happen to be some of the most important verses to my walk of faith. And I hope that I can share some things about them that will make them the same for you, and tell you a little story if we have time. These are the words, and I'm going to read this passage in its entirety. When the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" He said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets." If you have ever heard me preach, if you have ever heard me teach, if you have ever read anything I've ever written, it could all be summed up in love God and love one another. And the reason for that is because everything in the Bible, everything about the faith, every hope we have, every joy we experience is a direct result of loving God and loving one another. Some years ago, we were asked to create some banners in the Davenport Christian Life Center at St. Luke United Methodist Church, where I served as pastor. And we put the logo of the church on it, and we needed it to say something. And one of the banners said, "Love God," and the other said, "Love one another." Imagine how I must have felt on a trip to Wesley's Chapel in London a few years later, when I went back behind the pulpit, and there on the wall, at an altar place behind the pulpit, the words, "Love God and love one another," were found engraved into the woodwork. I guess I've said it before, but I'm a dyed-in-the-wool United Methodist. And there are some things that we say and do that I know some people agree with and don't agree with. But love God and love one another. Upon these two things hang all the law and the prophets. This past week, I just preached a sermon on the 10 Commandments and how important that they are to the faith to this day. But all the law, all the prophets, all the life and death and resurrection and spiritual presence of Jesus Christ in our life, the life of the church, and in the world is dependent on loving God and loving one another. So I want to invite each and every one of you to take these two great commandments given to us by Jesus himself and make this your mantra as well as mine from sunrise to sunset.